Hi everybody, welcome back to the absolutely wonderful world of Atomfall, and this is my kind of mini review of the Wicked Isle DLC expansion that came out a couple of months ago, but I never really got a chance to play through it as I was playing other things, but I finally got a chance, and it's a bit of a mixed bag what I'm going to be talking about here, but I think it's important to note a few things about this DLC before you dive in and before you dive back into Atomfall, especially as there's another DLC coming out fairly soon at the time of recording this video, which I think is called the Red Tide, which looks interesting as well. And the main fact about this DLC, Wicked Isle, is it may not be a DLC or an expansion in the way that you would think it would be, and definitely not the way I thought it would be, and really not in the way that Rebellion talked about it in the trailers, and also in the way that some of the other reviews and gameplay showcase talk about it as well. So what am I talking about here? So Rob, sort it out. So what is this DLC? What is this expansion? Well, what you get is you get Midsummer Isle. So normally you're kind of over at the Windermere, aren't you? Let's change the map. So you're over at Windham Village, aren't you? Sorry. And then what you do is when you buy the expansion, or you've got the super duper version of Atomfall with it on, you go to this place here, a little jetty with a little rowing boat, and a guy takes you over here, and then after that you can then go backwards and forwards as you wish. And then basically this opens up sort of a new area of the quarantine area, where you can run around and do sort of quests and follow slightly different stories. However, the way that I think of a DLC or an expansion to an existing game is normally it's an extra area you go to, or a series of extra quests that you're given that are kind of self-contained, that you would go to, say in Fallout, for example, say something like the Nuka-Cola expansion from Fallout 4, or say within The Witcher, sort of some of those ones where you have the DLC, you install it or it gets installed with the game, and then you go somewhere and you have a whole self-contained adventure within that area with its own with its own storyline, and it finishes. You start and finish. The arc starts and finishes, maybe not completely within the area, but the story does kind of have a beginning and have an end as part of the expansion. And that's not what happens with Wicked Isle. So what Wicked Isle gives you, it gives you some more storylines to follow, but it gives you these storylines as part of the main quests. So if you didn't know already, if you're new to Atomfall, it's set in the 1960s in the UK, in the northwest, and the idea is there's been this accident at a nuclear plant at Windscale, which did actually happen, and a massive area has been cordoned off, a bit like the exclusion zone in Stalker, to be honest, and you wake up and you don't know who you are, but you've got to find out what's going on. So you're wandering around, and it's very similar to things like Fallout and Stalker in the fact that there's different quests you can follow through that will lead to different endings in the game, depending on what you decide to do. And the game, and when you finish the game, it's really how you escape the exclusion zone by doing all these things and exploring these different areas. And hello, just going through a trap. But what Wicked Isle does is it adds more to those stories. But the way that the loop works for the quest is you'll wander around the island and you'll find out all these different things, and you'll even go back to the mainland as well for most of them, and then come back again. And then the kind of conclusion of these storylines is the end of the game. So what it's giving you is more ways to finish the game, and that's why you can't you can't play Wicked Isle if you've gone past a certain point in the main game. So this is a little bit of a spoiler, but if you've gone past the point where you go to the nuclear power station and finish off what you've got to do there, if you've gone past that point, where in effect you've gone past this is the point of no return point, of the game, then you can't. Well, I guess you could come over here, but you can't really do anything because the quest that you do wouldn't lead to anything. So that's what I found a little bit odd about this. I thoroughly enjoyed myself wandering around the island, doing the various quests, exploring, because there's some amazing location. There's an awful lot here as well. Then even going back to the mainland to wrap up some of the threads, you find out some information on the island that leaves you back to the some of the other areas as well, and that was really good. And then coming back to the island, but then finding out that, oh right, okay, so what this means now is what you've found out means that you've now got to complete the game, and that's how you finish the various. I think there's 2 or 3 new storylines that this opens up in terms of the way that the game will finish, and that was a bit meh because for me anyway, the finish of Atomfall was a lot of fun and I enjoyed doing it, but it was a bit of a grind to do, and I'm not sure I really want to do it again. I'm not really the player who continually replays single player games just to see what different ending I might get. I don't really do that very often. I kind of play them as an experience, enjoy that, and then kind of move on. And what I would really be looking for in a DLC or an expansion is, yes, it's in this universe, it's with these mechanics, could even be in a similar area, but it's a series of new quests and new adventures that are really self-contained. So for example, at the point I've got now in this particular playthrough of Wicked Isle, I've got to the point now where I've got to go and kind of do the end game bit, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that again because I've already done it. So it's left me with a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. I loved it as I was playing it, but when I discovered this, I was a bit like, oh, okay. I would have much rather there been some way to finish the Wicked Isle story here on the island and go, right, okay, you've done that. Maybe you've got a special weapon, or you've got some more skill points, or something like that, and then you go back to the mainland and then you can carry on. Because as it is as well, is if you make the wrong decision and you load, say for example you loaded a safe game you had from really early on in the game before you'd opened up some of the other areas in the game, and I'm trying not to be too spoilerish. You would do these bits in the Wicked Isle, and then you could have an awful lot more of the main game that you still need to do to be able to get to the endings that this particular DLC opens up for you. For people who know the game, what I'm really talking about here is opening up the Interchange and Oberon, because if you've chosen a save where you haven't done that and you do Wicked Isle, by the way, if you want to finish these storylines, you're going to have to go through and do all that to get to the end. What I would have liked to see them do is over here. So this is the north bit of the island. There's a bunker here. I think what they should have done is they should have put some way of having a link between this bunker and then the don't know if I've opened it up. No, and then the nuclear power station. So there should have been a way to kind of have a shortcut to the end game, so you could do everything on the island, go to the mainland, do those bits, come back to the island, go to this bit, go through like a secret passage here. This would take you out into kind of the end game bit. You could do the end game and you could come back and get the various endings that this DLC offers. So there we go. So if you're a big fan of Atomfall, it's definitely worth playing. If you're a big fan of Atomfall and you enjoy playing through it, with different play styles and in different ways to get different endings, then this is going to be your cup of tea. Just be very careful about the save you use to do it. If you're like me though, where you're more into playing these games as experiences, as like interactive movies really, it's a bit disappointing because you'll work your way through. You'll have a good time working your way through the quests, but then you'll get to a point where it'll be like, alright, okay, I've got to go and finish the game again like I've already done, and I'm not sure whether I really want to do that or not. So there we go. Excuse me. Forewarned is forearmed. Still an amazing universe, still an amazing feel, still my game of the year for 2025. Let's see what the new expansion brings and see if they do that in a different way, and hopefully it'll be a self-contained adventure and it won't just give us different ways to finish the game. Anyway, that's enough from me. What do you think? Put your questions and comments down below, and of course I'll see you again soon.